They painted you as a monster before they ever met you. Whispered behind curtains, plotted under dim lights. They spoke your name like a warning, as if you were the danger, the disease. And when you walked into the room, you felt it, eyes like daggers, silence like a verdict. They twisted your story, edited your soul, turned your past into a horror tale they could sleep easier with. Because if they could demonize you, they wouldn't have to deal with the threat of your truth. Your strength, too loud. Your presence, too sharp. So they needed a villain, and you were too convenient not to crown. But what they didn't realize is you don't wear masks to hide. You wear them to reveal. Every time they tried to box you in, you shifted. Every accusation, every smear, every whispered campaign only made you dig deeper into your own power. You didn't flinch. You didn't break. Who you became. Not the demon they claimed, but the mirror they feared. The truth they choked on. The living reminder that people like you don't burn in their bonfires. You build kingdoms from the ashes. They thought your silence was surrender. But you were watching, calculating, becoming. You let them think they won because you knew the real war wasn't for your reputation, it was for your evolution. And now, when they see you standing tall, armored in scars, voice unshaken, eyes on fire, they realize the myth they created couldn't compare to the reality you've become. They tried to weaponize your character. But they forgot you forged your own identity in the dark. Not for their approval. For your arrival. You didn't show them who they thought you were. You showed them who you chose to be. That's not just strength. That's transformation. That's power. That's the true mask, unbreakable, unapologetic, undeniable. Now they stare, stunned into silence, because the story they wrote no longer fits the reality standing before them. You didn't just survive their labels, you shattered them. Turned every insult into iron, every betrayal into a blueprint. They mistook you for a character in their play, forgetting you were busy writing your own script. And when the curtain finally rose, it wasn't their twisted tale that played out, it was your revelation. You weren't their villain. You were the architect of your own vengeance, poetic and precise. They never expected you to rise with grace and fury fused together. They never imagined the version of you that would emerge from the fire wasn't disfigured but redesigned, reinforced. You didn't come back to prove them wrong. You came back to prove to yourself that nothing they tried to kill in you stayed dead. Your heart still beats with thunder. Your mind sharper than ever. And your purpose, it's no longer about revenge. It's about reclamation. You reclaimed your name, your narrative, your next chapter. Now, they flinch at your footsteps. Not because you scream, but because you don't have to. Your silence has become a storm. Your calm, a controlled chaos. They wanted to see you broken. But what they see now is a force so complete, so self-defined, that their tactics fall like dust. They called you a demon, but you became the shadow that outgrew their light. Not to haunt them, but to remind them you can't bury what was born to rise. This is your power, not in the mask you wear, but in the truth it reveals. And now, when they look at you, they don't see the version they created. They see the one they tried to stop and failed. You walk through the same rooms now, but the air has changed. Their fear isn't loud, it's quiet, restrained, like they're trying not to choke on the respect they never meant to give you. Because deep down they know They never broke you. They bent the truth, yes. They scattered lies like seeds. But you didn't just grow through it, you bloomed in spite of it. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than the one they couldn't control standing tall with proof that every attempt to erase you only deepened your imprint. They see the mask now and it unsettles them. Not because it hides you, but because it reveals everything they denied. The pain they caused, the strength they underestimated, the soul they tried to condemn, now speaking louder than ever without even raising its voice. Your mask isn't armor. It's a declaration. It says, I saw what you did. I walked through it. And I came back better. And let them whisper. Let them analyze, theorize, try to reframe your story again. It won't matter. Because you're not playing defense anymore. You've become your own storm system, silent until necessary, patient until it's time. And when you move, the ground remembers. You don't explain yourself now. You don't beg for clarity or justice. You are the clarity. You are the justice. What they tried to label as rage is actually righteous. What they saw as chaos is discipline forged in darkness. So stand tall. Let them witness what happens when someone they tried to tear down decides not just to survive, but to own every shadow, every scar, every scarlet letter they tried to paint across your legacy. You wore their shame like a crown. And now, you're not asking to be seen. You're forcing the world to look, and they'll never see you the same way again. You became the lesson they never wanted to learn, the consequence of playing God with someone else's identity. They thought they could define you, confine you, rewrite your soul with gossip and guilt. But what they failed to grasp is that real strength isn't loud at first. It's quiet, it's patient. It grows in the places no one's watching, in sleepless nights, in heavy silences, in moments when giving up would have been easier, cleaner, expected. But you didn't. You stayed. You endured. And in doing so, you became untouchable. Now you move differently, not out of fear, but precision. Every word you speak carries the weight of everything they tried to crush. Every step you take echoes with the sound of boundaries being built. You're not afraid of being misunderstood anymore. That was their weapon, confusion, distortion, doubt. But now you let them misunderstand. Because you know the truth lives in how you carry yourself, not in how they try to carry your name. And the irony? They gave you this power. Unintentionally, of course, but their obsession, their attacks, their endless attempts to unravel you, they gave you a blueprint for becoming indestructible. They taught you how to stand alone, how to choose yourself without flinching, how to lead without needing applause. They gave you the stage, thinking you'd collapse under the lights. Instead, you rewrote the script and burned the old narrative to the ground. So let them talk. Let them sit in the smoke of their own illusions. You've got nothing left to prove. You showed them the mask, and it wasn't a disguise. It was the truth made visible, a symbol of who you had to become to survive their chaos and rise above it. And now you're not just surviving. You're commanding, you're creating. You're conquering, not out of vengeance, but vision. Because the real victory isn't that they see you now. It's that you see you and no one can ever take that away again. And in that self-recognition, raw, unfiltered, undeniable, you found your liberation, not in their acceptance, not in their apologies, which never came, but in your own reflection. In the moment you looked at the ruins of what they tried to make of you and said, "I still choose me." That's where the power truly ignited. Not in rage, not in revenge, but in reclaiming your story from hands that were never worthy to write it. You became fluent in silence, mastered the art of watching without reacting, learning without letting them know. They thought they had you figured out, boxed in by their shallow assumptions, but you were always 10 steps deeper, calculating, transforming. You let their projections crumble, not by fighting them, but by living so far above them that their narratives couldn't breathe in your altitude. You didn't argue with the lies, they suffocated on your truth. Now they don't just fear what you've become, they fear what you represent. You are living proof that you can't kill what's real. That authenticity is fireproof. You wear your scars like sigils, not of defeat, but of sacred battles survived. They didn't just fail to bury you, they accidentally unearthed the version of you that doesn't bend, doesn't shrink, doesn't wait for validation. You are the contradiction to their comfort, the reminder that control is an illusion, that what they demonized wasn't your darkness, it was your depth. And the mask you wear now, it's not for hiding. It's a message. It says, "I built this. I earned this. I am this." It shields your peace, not your pain. It commands your space, not your silence. So stand tall in your transformation. Let your presence do what their words never could command the room. Let them feel what it's like to be in the orbit of someone who wasn't destroyed but redesigned. And when they ask, in whispers they hope you'll never hear, how did they survive all that? Let your silence answer. I didn't survive it. I mastered it. Like, comment, and subscribe.